How did this whole thing with the restoration of the chapel come about? In 2013, Duke hired the forensic engineering firm of Wish, Janney and Elsner, very well-known consulting firm out of Chicago, to inspect the chapel ceiling. During their investigation, WJE discovered that many of the joints between the limestone ribs which form the vaulted arch of the ceiling had cracked or opened. When you have an arched construction, you need to have compression to hold the arch together and to hold the structure up. WJE told Duke, look, you really have to fix this. So they're a Chicago-based firm, and they encouraged Duke to bid out the repairs to Chicago-based contracting firms who had highly experienced and skilled tradesmen in this sort of work. And that's how we became involved. But unfortunately, their inspection was very limited in its access and fairly limited in their lighting, so they couldn't detect all the problems. And once the project actually started and you were fully scaffolded, the scope of the work increased dramatically. In order to repair these joints, we first had to stabilize them from above in the attic of the ceiling. WJE came up with a repair detail to basically pour concrete and bridge the stones so they could be held in place, while on the underside, for the major part of the work, we could take the mortar out and then put it back. We were concerned about trying out our construction methods 800 miles from Chicago, and so we tried to create a controlled environment at our warehouse to go over the repair details with our tradesmen. We tried to build a replica of the limestone rib portion of the ceiling structure. The mock-up work proved invaluable for us and for the university. One, it allowed us to figure out which tools and methods we needed to do the work, and two, it made us way more efficient, and it ended up resulting in savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars that were passed on to Duke. We had to cut 11 to 15 inches deep into the stonework. Once we were able to cut all the mortar out, the yellow masking was used so that we could prevent any staining as the new mortar went back in place. The whole point of this is so that when you go back to visit campus and you happen to look up at the ceiling, if you're in the chapel, you won't notice that anything has ever been done to it. Now, once the chapel was fully scaffolded, WJE was able to see things they couldn't otherwise see, and including they were able to inspect the elaborate window tracery that forms all the major windows of the chapel. And unfortunately, the tracery had many of the same issues as the limestone ribs in the ceiling, where the limestone pieces that form the tracery had started to separate, and in some cases even dislocate and move. But the one big difference in the repair for this work is that we had to be on both the inside and the outside of the chapel to make this happen. They were re-roofing the chapel and had scaffolding fully up and all around the roof. And once they were on the roof, WJE could see that all the decorative finials, they required repair and maintenance as well. And we went around and tuck pointed them and made them sound as was required. I hope that when you're next on campus, you all get to visit the chapel, look up while you're there. Don't just look ahead. Hopefully you're going to say, I can't tell that anything was done here, except that the experience will be better.